Overgrown, thank you so much for joining my Mod Rock Jam podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Okay, well, Danae and Brandon, thank you so much for spending your Monday with me. Let's get started from the very beginning because on my research, and I saw your show with Kasabian, and my interview focuses on bands who are coming, touring, visiting the Bay Area, and you guys are from the Bay Area.
We sure are. Yep.
So it's really nice having some locals onto the podcast. And I think also your song Glen Park gave it away.
Oh, yay. One of my favorites.
I remember those BART days. I was like, oh, now I'm passing Glen Park.
There it is.
But
Yeah,
you
yeah.
two met back in 2012, which was the year I graduated high school. And Brandon, you answered a Craigslist ad, which is very brave. That's like the same story as Cannon's. But you also were in a garage surf rock band called Sun Haze. And then Brandon, you were taking like these Berkeley online classes, and you're like, you know what? I want to level up my skills and production. And then how did that detour to becoming Overgrown?
Yeah, we were in Sun Haze for I think it's like 8 years maybe today. I don't know, or like close to
Yeah,
that.
it's hard to remember. It was a long
Yeah,
time though.
a while, and it was just getting to the point where like different members were moving. So our guitarist in the band at that point was getting ready to move to Korea. Our synth player in that band was getting ready to move to LA, and so uh, yeah, just wanted to continue to like find a way to work with Danae. It took a while to come up with like the idea. I was watching a lot of like Stranger Things and loved the Drive movie with Ryan Gosling and stuff like that. So that really exposed me to kind of like synthwave as a genre, and I came together with the vision for Overgrown, the early demos and stuff like that, and pitched it to Danae.
Yeah, because when I see the visuals with the videos, it reminds me of like an 80s like video game. So you definitely nailed that. And then okay, I could totally see Stranger Things. Of course, the Drive soundtrack is amazing. So where did the name Overgrown come from?
I don't know if it came from a single place. I think it came from a lot of different places. One, I think I just wanted a name that was somewhat recognizable. It's just hard. Like, there's so many bands nowadays, so you wanted something that like I think people could hopefully like remember. I was really obviously again drawing inspiration from Stranger Things. I was into Survive, which is like the bigger project that those two composers are part of, right? And so I wanted like something kind of one word punchy, but I think there were a bunch of ideas I had that also made sense with Overgrown. Like, I think I thought the sound was going to be very huge too, so I thought that could be kind of emblematic, right? And also, I wasn't sure exactly what the project was going to be like at the time. Like, is it going to be a bunch of different artists that come on and like do some things? Is it going to be kind of a collective thing? I ultimately ended up being like, Danae and I as kind of the core of it. But I think when I came up with that name, I wasn't exactly sure. I thought Overgrown could also fit as like maybe there's like a bunch of people who are going to work on tracks on this project too. So
Okay. And another thing too was that so this was organic because you guys already knew each other
Mhm.
because when you think of Stranger Things and it really hyped up like that 80s renaissance. So I wasn't sure like were you just trying to follow the wave into that because we start seeing more electronic and 80s synth and more relevant bands as well.
I don't think it was super intentional, at least on my part, in terms of like trying to follow on with what's happening in the culture. It was more of just like what was resonating with me at the time. What I felt like this was also, I mean, I think you touched on this earlier with your question, but my role in Sundays was just as the drummer, and so Overgrown has been like my first time to work as a producer in any project, and so synthwave was like something I felt like I could wrap my arms around and like figure out how to do it. Plus, like just that's where my interests was. So, not necessarily. I mean, I think that I benefited from the fact that it was like in the cultural zeitgeist and like there were things like that were super popular. But I didn't necessarily think like, oh, this is super trendy. We should jump on this. It was more like I think this is cool. The aesthetic is cool. The music is cool, and so that's why we went and started there.
Another thing too is that like I'm just gonna kind of summarize your band's bio, but it blends contemporary and 80s film score. Was that also like the idea? Like, okay, I can imagine Overgrown's music being like a soundtrack to a film.
Would love that.
Yeah, I mean, Danae and I both watch plenty of movies and TV. I think we wanted it to be poppy. I mean, like I think both of us have pop sensibilities and stuff like that, and that's another reason I really wanted to work with Danae is like I love writing songs with vocals in it. I know that synthwave is not always a vocal heavy genre, but um, I wanted to bring some of that film stuff, merge it with some of the songwriting stuff that we had already been doing in our previous project, and um, we haven't done any like sync work or any film work, but I think we would love to do it for sure. So that kind of lives in the vision of the project too.
I really love your song This House. I've been listening to it a lot while I'm working out at the gym. And I mean, this is not 80s, but for some reason when I'm listening to the lyrics, I can imagine it being synced in that Netflix show You. I don't know if you've watched that show, but just his character.
Oh my God, I love that. That's like the best compliment ever because like a dream would be to land in like a creepy or like a horror type film or movie or television show. Like that would be my dream come true. So thank
Yeah,
you.
like something slasher like. But yeah, no, I'm cross the fingers that the universe is putting it out that way. What was the inspiration for that song?
Ooh, that was kind of I wrote that song a long time ago. And I can just speak from the lyrics, like from the lyric standpoint, right? Because that piece was actually constructed and built during like Sun Haze days. So credit to that group of people as well who were part of that band. And we kind of transformed it to kind of blend more so into this overgrown um reality. Uh but the lyrics were just kind of like a stream of consciousness of like where I was at the time. Like I just sat with the instrumental. I was just in my room, much like where I am right now, and just like was listening to it on repeat, and it all just kind of like poured out of me. I can't even remember the year that I wrote it, but yeah, I was definitely going through some stuff. And but yeah, it was just like stream of conscious, what I was dealing with at the time, and just being kind of like honed up in my room. And yeah, it just kind of came out of me.
It was so creative. Is yeah, no, I'm sure we could find when it came out on YouTube, but it's such a brilliant track. And I was scrolling through both of your socials and I saw that you both did radio. And Danae, you went to my school, San Francisco State. You studied Becca.
Let's go,
And
Raiders.
and going back to you always being on Zoom calls, and I think that's because you're a promotions manager for Odyssey.
Yeah, I actually just started. Good research. Yeah, so I just started working at Odyssey, which is kind of a full circle moment for me because right out of San Francisco State, which I majored in Becca, I was broadcasting major. I was on the Live 105 team. Then stepped away for a bit, got some work experience somewhere else, but I definitely just have always been an audio geek and in love with music and sound, and so just ultimately found my way back to the radio world. And yeah, I'm back at Odyssey.
It pulls you because I studied radio. I did SFS, and I took a break a little bit from radio. I was doing other broadcast things, and then I love music, and it was just calling me, and I was like, I gotta go back. And then I'm doing podcasting. And
Mhm.
speaking of Live 105, I know Aaron Axelson. He does his sound check. Has Overgrown been featured on that?
On Soundcheck? No, not yet. But
Aaron, man.
yeah.
It's a dream. It's a dream though. So yeah, one day
Because
we'd
you've
love
done
to.
his pop scene show, right?
Yeah, we opened up for Big Pig, which was a really, really sick show. And actually I have like Live 105 chapstick right
That
here
is
on
so
my
cute.
desk. Like I love Live 105. I love Aaron Axelson. I love the whole live team and I love being a part of it. But yeah, that Big Pig show was fun at Rickshaw Stop.
Were you excited for Live 105's return?
Oh my God. Yes. Like as an alt kid, just growing up listening to alt music my whole life, like that was my favorite station when I moved here to the Bay. And then, yeah, just to be able to be a part of it is just my favorite.
Right? Feeling like that outcast, like there's no alternative music in the Bay Area. So when it's like when it made its revival, you're like, okay, finally, like I could get introduced to newer alternative acts. So again, crossing my fingers, you guys get featured on Live 105, especially with the local coverage. And you played at smaller, intimate venues, Bottom of the Hill, the Independent, Rickshaw. And then going back to me seeing you open for Kasabian at the Regency Ballroom, how did that happen and how was it?
Whew, that was fun. I don't know. I could keep talking, but actually, Brandon, they reached out to Golden Voice reached out to us, right? Like I
Yeah,
think you
yeah.
were the one who started or saw the conversation at first.
For sure, yeah. I can recap. So yeah, we I happened to be on vacation with my fiance, and I think it was there was like an Instagram DM or a Facebook like Messenger or something like that from Golden Voice, which is the company that put on that show, and I think they generally put on shows for Regency Ballroom, and so yeah, they reached out and just said, hey, would you like to be considered to open for Kasabian, which like blew my mind, just because earlier in that year, we had already had like a string of just incredible shows. Like Danae mentioned, opening up for Big Pig, being able to play the Independent, not just once, but we played it twice. Like we had already kind of thought, oh, like these are the biggest shows we're going to play for the year. And then Golden Wiz came and told us about the Kasabian show. And it's like, for me, I grew up as a kid of like the early 2000s indie rock scene, especially like the Brit indie rock scene, Arctic Monkeys, Kasabian, and like all those folks. And so I was like, this is crazy that we're even being considered for that. And so I was like, hell yeah, throw our name into the ring. And really, I think that both Danae and I were like, it's nice that we're being considered. We don't think that this is going to pan out, but it's nice that we're being considered. And um, it was pretty early on. I think it was like 3 or 4 months before the show, and then like a month out, maybe they were like, "Okay, Kasabian's cool with y'all. Like, let's make this happen." And we were in disbelief, And I think that's how it came out, So we didn't have any connection to the band or anything like that, but they were super cool. When we were there at the venue, obviously, I think this was the most intimidated I'd been playing a show in a long time, stepping into there and just seeing how big it is. And having been on the other side of it as a fan, watching other artists at that venue over the years in San Francisco, like it was just wild experience all around for sure.
It was such a sick experience. It's probably like my favorite show to date.
I mean, shout out to Golden Voice, they rock. I've worked with them as partners with ticket promotions, and it was just you two on stage, but yet you filled the stage with your energy. And I think that's what caught my attention. I was like, I need to check out who this band is. And then, oh, what? There's something from SF, no freaking way. And I always vouch, like I tell people, like get to the shows early, support your openers because they could be the next big thing. And for you two, do you recall a show that you went to maybe together or individually where the openers were like wowed you?
There are so many, right? It's just like it's almost impossible to just like pull one off the top of my head just because I agree with you. I think that opening acts, supporting acts are sometimes some of like the hidden gems, the hidden treasures. Dang, it's hard to pull one off of the top of my
I
head.
got one actually.
Oh,
So yeah,
go.
we actually Danae and I recently went to go see Twin Tribes at
Oh, perfect example.
I
at
was at
Chapel.
that
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
Oh
No way.
yes. Oh, it kicked ass.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, is it Urban Heat? Is that the
Urban
band?
Heat.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I
then
think
Vandermoon also.
yeah.
So
Uh,
sick. Yeah.
so
That was
amazing. Yeah. And then again, I think I really bought the ticket just thinking, okay, let's go check out Twin Tribes, especially because we're on the Overground front. We're thinking about trying to bring more guitar stuff in for some new like material. But I got there a little late, but I caught Urban Heat, and I was like, damn, this band's great, and I definitely started checking out more of their music afterwards.
Look at the synergy. We were at the same show,
I
and
know.
here's me talking to you.
I love that. It's such a cute San Francisco music scene. I
Yeah,
love it.
it's Destiny. Who would you like to tour with? Because Twin Tribes, and I even thought about like the Midnight. I think that would be a good pairing as well.
I've thought about this. For Overgrown as it sits now, yeah, I feel like the Midnight would be cool. I now like seeing Urban Heat. I'm like, can we tour with them? Like, I feel like I could bring that energy too. Like, let's freaking go. Like, yeah, I don't know. B, who would you want to tour with?
I mean, yeah, we got friends too in the synthwave scene. I think like Bad Dreamers would be awesome to play a show with them or do a little tour with them. But yeah, as we're getting more into, we're gonna try and work on some more like dark wave inspired stuff, guitar
Mhm.
inspired stuff. I think that bands like Twin Tribes would be awesome to eventually start working with, or
Boy
what's the
Harsher would be
Boy
interesting.
Harsher, yeah. It's
What
cool.
if we
Kareem too, right? Yeah. So there are lots. There are lots for sure.
Yeah, and what I like about Twin Tribes, and I've interviewed them, and then as well as Glass Spells, and I was talking about how we're seeing like a change in representation with like the whole dark and synth and goth wave, because it came from England, and we had all these like white faces of new wave bands, but now we're seeing people of color diving into that genre, so it's amazing.
Yes, it's so beautiful.
And then when I saw your show, you covered The Weekend, The Hills. Why that song in particular?
That actually also goes pretty far back in like the story of why we did that. Brandon actually proposed that cover for Sun Haze when we were in that project, and it was vetoed, not by me, but it was vetoed. And so we've both been a huge fans of The Weekend. And Brandon actually made this point, like he's also delved into like the synth scene with his like most recent bodies of work. And, he thought it would be a good idea or a nice twist on it to bring one of his older tracks into this like new universe, this new realm, and then just put our own spin on it. And so that's kind of how, and then B, you can obviously chime in and correct me if I'm speaking out of turn, but yeah, that's where it came to.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it took us a minute to figure out as Overgrown. We wanted to do a cover. I mean, I love Dawn FM. I know obviously like Blinding Lights and After Hours gets a lot of attention, but Dawn FM was like amazing to me, and it really pushed me to be like, okay, if we're gonna do a cover, would love to do an older Weekend track. I wanted to go as far back as like House of Balloons, but we were having trouble like executing it. And
Yeah.
then, but yeah, I think it just worked out like perfectly with the full circle moment, like to today's point where The Hills was a cover idea like probably 6 years ago, and then
Yeah.
it worked out super great. Like I think it works out great as a synthwave rendition, and Danae kills it with her performance. Really gets to show off her chops and have a lot of fun on stage with it. So
Yeah, that is definitely one of my favorite songs to perform. It's just like full send every time.
You didn't change the lyrics too, like you kept it original, and he's a great example of talking about like contemporary artists who are bringing back that synth wave and making it like really retro and cool again, as well as the Smashing Pumpkins. Have you guys watched his show The Idol?
I haven't, but I've been told not to.
same,
So
same.
It's
I have
so
not.
short.
I've been told not to do it. So I don't know if I should.
I mean, it got canceled, so I mean, if you're bored, you got nothing else to watch. It is kind of bad, but you know what? When I was watching it, like I love him as an artist, but I was watching it, and I don't know, maybe if it was his acting, but he like bothered me. I was like, I don't know if I like his character, and I don't know if I like him as a person. I was like, no, they're not real. Like it's like,
Yeah, you're definitely not the first person I've heard that said that they're just like his character is just awful. So
yeah,
maybe I'm not gonna watch it and just like protect my version of Ava.
right. You two are a duo. Are you fans of any duos out there in a similar genre to your music?
The low hanging fruit is to say Twin Tribes, right? I
Or
mean,
Boy Harsher again, like I
right.
can say them, like they're insane. When I saw them at 10:15, just full sending. Um
We've also
like
collaborated. One of
inspirational.
the songs we did was with Josh. I think it's Dally, and hopefully I'm not killing his last name there. But he has a project called At 1980. It's like a duo project as well. Um, And then like I mean there are plenty of like bigger artists like Daft Punk and stuff like
I
that.
got
Like
one.
that's an inspiration.
I got one that's one of my biggest inspirations. I can't believe I forgot about it. But it goes back a little bit further, like to like the 2010s. But Fantagram, like I just feel like watching her like do her thing, I was like, holy cow. And just like their ability to kind of like blend genres and still be electronic and rock and also like synthy at the same time. I remember looking up to them heavily and being like, whoa, those are some cool people.
They're playing at the Greek Theater. They're opening for someone. I don't know if it's Kings of Leon or it was someone
Yes,
else.
that's who it is. Yep.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll see you two at the show.
I'm trying to go, so I'll see you there.
Brandon, I saw on your socials you were saying pots, pans, and t-shirts of bands. Who do you have as band shirts? Do you have one particular band you have so many shirts of?
Oh, without a doubt, it's Arctic Monkeys. Yeah. It's funny. The keyboardist in our former band had kind of given me that tagline, and I loved it because, again, the drumming aspect of like my background. Also love cooking, so I thought that was like super fitting. And then yeah, I think I own like enough Arctic Monkeys gear that I could probably get by like a couple of weeks without like laundry, probably in terms of like shirts, sweaters. Like I've been a huge fan since like high school, so it's been many years.
Did their show at the Chase Center already pass?
It did, yeah.
Did you go? Did you see them?
I was there, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. No, I put everything on my phone like a concert calendar and then like they almost come into a blur. I was like, "Wait, did that happen or is it coming up?" I need to set reminders. But let's talk about like your collaborations and your remixes. Like how do you find these people to work with? Do they reach out to you? Are you doing your research? Are you finding them on YouTube?
It's a pretty big mix. Yeah, I think we've had some folks reach out to us, like think about Glowline, who did a remix of our song "The Writers," just reached out to us. We put out a single last month, so right around Valentine's Day, with another synthwave artist named Jacket. He reached out with some demos, and so um, that's when we've got some requests from folks, and sometimes they'll have tracks, sometimes they'll just have like remix ideas, and other times it's like artists that we really want to work with. So um, like we did or Troy Bishop did a remix of our song Maybe Next Year, and we also had Calix do a remix of our song Wasteland, and those were like artists that I was listening to when we were like writing. You know, when we got past like the initial idea of Overgrown and started to get a little more familiar with like who are the artists in the space, and so it was just like super exciting to get artists that we looked up to work with us, and we have some more exciting stuff this year actually with some other artists that we love, and they're going to be doing some more collaborations with us. So
Oh,
excited.
perfect. Yeah, because that was my next question. If you had any new plans for this year, because you dropped two new singles, Me and You, and then the song you mentioned of Jacket, In Love with the Danger. And I love the sax. I'm so glad you included that.
Yeah, nice. That was Jacket. Jacket did that part.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah.
feel like with
Full
with
credit.
synthwave, you have to have the saxophone. Not a crime.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But also I wanted to piggyback real quick because full credit to B for getting those conversations started and initiated with the whole collabs and the remixes, because if it wasn't for his brain and his like ability to reach out and find these individuals and find these people, like they would have never come to fruition. And I think that really got the ball rolling on all of these other future collabs that we're excited about. Yeah, just in talks. I don't know what we can share, what we can't share.
I guess, yeah.
But
Any
there's some fun ones coming down the line. So
We can definitely say that like we're releasing a new song every month for the better part of the year.
okay.
Um,
yeah,
so we
till
did
June
the
or
yeah
something. Yeah.
yeah we did the single with Rogue VHS, the single with Jacket. Now we're gonna do three new songs just that are like Overgrown originals, and we'll have an EP come out at the beginning of summer, and then some hopefully exciting stuff probably that we shouldn't talk about until it gets more solidified, but hopefully like we'll cap the year off with some more collaborations and remixes and stuff like that.
Okay, I'm looking forward to the new music dropping. And then, cross our fingers, you guys do a show with Urban Heat. And for some reason, like the 2 times I've seen him, he's like shirtless and he's like completely ripped. I'm
Yep.
like, I gotta go to the
Yep.
gym more.
Yeah. He's very inspiring. I'm
Yeah.
like, shit,
I was
here we
like, gosh
go.
damn it, I should have had that cinnamon roll.
Oh, that's so funny.
I'm gonna ask like some random fun questions.
Yeah, do it.
If you could write a fortune, like in the fortune cookies, what would the message be?
For the world, because it would just be for like my inner child also. It would just be like, just take a deep breath and just like everything will be okay, because I suffer heavily from anxiety and panic. And so it's like a constant reminder to just breathe deep. This is just a thing that we're all doing. So just one day at a time. That would be mine for like the world.
Probably do something similar. Like I do something semi-inspiring for like if I was gonna put it out into a random fortune cookie and I didn't know who was gonna get it. Something like good things are around the corner, or something that like I think people can like latch onto. I feel like that's nice to give somebody. Like when I've opened a fortune cookie and it's something that feels good, it gives you some kind of like momentum. Like manifesting something. If I was gonna give one to Danae, I might make it an inside joke or something. I was actually thinking, I don't know if actually, Danae, I don't even know if you watch this show, but I
What is
would
it?
go to Rocco's Modern Life. You know, there's that episode where Filbert opened the fortune cookies and he got the same freaking fortune every time. That was like, your life is terrible and manifesting. Do you remember this or no?
I do remember it. No, but this is such a blast from the past. I was like,
I might do something like that just as a joke for Danae. And
just
I've been
fucking
at like
hella
a
just
90s.
trolling. Just troll me
Of
with a
course, of
fortune
course.
cookie.
Yeah, yeah.
Classic.
Danae, since you were open about like suffering from anxiety, do you feel when you are making Overgrown's music that is like a attention release for this?
It's kind of like a push and pull also, because yes, in the moment of writing, it is like a release. It is a way to let go. It is a way for me to kind of like process a lot of stuff. But then also on the flip side, when it starts to release, or when I have to perform it, or when I have to sing it in front of a bunch of people, it can be a really vulnerable space. And so then it kind of like heightens it a little bit. But that's when I have to just be like, no, it's okay. Just take a deep breath and just do what feels right. And I really enjoy writing music. I really enjoy singing more so. Um, it just it just helps me with everything. So yeah, it's kind of like a push and pull, but it's a push and pull that I love to be a part of and have to be a part of, or else I don't know what else I would do.
As long as music is a way of healing and being a cure, that's why I have like the music heals the soul. That's
It does. It
yeah.
absolutely does. In every aspect, in any capacity that you want it to, right? Like if you just listen to it, you can have, it's like a form of therapy. If you write it, it's a form of therapy. Just like it's such a beautiful, beautiful tool.
And I feel like that could be in itself in a fortune cookie as well. Do you find being part of the Bay Area and the music scene more of your genre emerging, or having some support with the other genres in your scene?
That's a good question. I remember actually when we first started releasing stuff, I had a friend who's deep in the music community as well say like, hey, like I'm really stoked to hear this new Overgrown stuff because I don't really feel like there's a ton of synth wave representation in the Bay Area. Shout out Lucas if you ever watch this. Uh but yeah, I think more and more as the years have progressed, I think that it's becoming like there are more bands that fall within our synth universe or the synth realm that are local. I don't know, B, if you want to chime in.
We've gotten a lot of help, honestly. I mean, I don't think that I knew much about the synth community. Again, coming from like we were in a surf rock, indie rock kind of state for the better part of like 7 or 8 years, and then I've got to give shout outs to folks like Vice Rain, another local duo who put on Star Crash.
Yes.
No longer happening at DNA Lounge, but was a really great like showcase for electronic musicians. We were lucky enough to play that. I think it was like 2022, and like through that got to meet the community. A lot of folks that like come to our shows, that we get to go to other cool like local shows and stuff like that. So I think we found it. It's like it's definitely, I think like anything in the Bay right now, it's hard just because it's so hard for artists to be here with just how cost of living is and how crazy the world is. But we did find like a little bit of a niche of like Bay Area electronic musicians, which has been really cool to connect with.
And then you could support each other. You could do these mini shows at our intimate venues as well. And Danae, I work like one street like up or below, depending on the direction. I work for ABC 7 News. And
Oh,
yeah.
you're over by the old battery office, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys could come up with a news headline, what would it be?
Overgrown takes the world. No, just kidding. Takes the world by storm.
We could run that.
Yes. I would want it to be with like saving animals and also music. Like Overgrown puts on or like animals are saved worldwide because they listen to, I don't know.
They listen to Overgrown.
And everyone was happy again.
I recently just rewatched that internship movie with Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn where they're internet Googles. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I know the trailer. I don't think I've actually watched
Okay.
the movie though.
It's like 11 years old now, which is crazy. But anyway, one of the questions that Google asked them for the interview was, and I'm gonna ask you this because it was such a ridiculous question. I was like, who could give an answer? And it is, you're shrunken to a size of nickels and dropped in a blender, what would you do?
If I was shrunk to the size of a nickel and dropped in a blender, is the blender active or gonna be active? Is it plugged in? Like,
I think that's part of the question. You gotta come up with. I got my answer, which is that I'm slipping to the very bottom.
He's ready.
And like under the blades, and I'm getting a pocket of air. Hopefully, if there's nothing else, I don't know, and just trying to weather out the storm.
I got it.
But you might drown that way. I don't know.
I know what I would do. I would scale. I would find myself a corner of the blender, right? And I would try to scale the wall like a spider. Just be like using the corners of the blender. I have a Ninja, so it's a square. It's not a circle blender, but that's what I would do.
Yeah, you're like, please drop me in a Ninja blender.
Exactly. It must be a Ninja in this hypothetical situation.
Oh my gosh, you guys are both great Google interns if you ever sign up for it. Okay, well, that wraps up our time. But Danae and Brandon of Overgrown, thank you so much.
This was so much fun. Thank you so much for having us.